01. My name is Leo Vance. I'm the lowest level quality inspector at Apex Manufacturing. My pay stub says $18 an hour, but I'm the guy who actually keeps this whole rust bucket of a factory running. Still, everyone here thinks I'm a total slacker, especially the line supervisor, Walt Flanagan. Leo, late for the morning huddle. Your coveralls look like you slept in a dumpster, and your inspection logs look like they were written by a chicken scratching in the dirt. Walt stood at the workshop door, his spit flying so fast his cheap toupee was vibrating. I slowly cleaned out my ear. Walt, your hairpiece is on backward today. A wave of suppressed snickers rippled through the workshop. Walt's face instantly turned the color of a bruised plum, his hand instinctively flying to his head. His toupee was fine, of course. I was just messing with him. Later, in the morning meeting, the general manager, Mr. Peterson, was deep into a spiel about how quarterly performance was up 20%. Walt suddenly cut in. The undisciplined behavior of certain employees is having a serious negative impact on. Speaking of impact, I said, raising my hand and cutting him off, that batch of gears Walt signed off on last Friday, they're currently jamming up the client's entire assembly line. The conference room went so quiet you could hear the synthetic fibers of Walt's toupee scraping against his scalp. Mr. Peterson frowned. What's this about? I pulled out my phone and played a video. The client chewed us out for a solid 10 minutes. The short version is, and I quote, "Is quality control at Apex run by a bunch of monkeys?" Walt slammed his hand on the table. That's an operator error on the client's end. I walked over to the projector and pulled up the schematics. Design tolerance is 0.02 millimeters. The actual measurement is 0.2. I paused for effect. Oh, and by the way, the admin password for that new German milling machine is the acronym for Walter is a moron. Mr. Peterson's lips twitched, his shoulders shaking as he tried to hold back a laugh. After the meeting, he clapped me on the shoulder. Leo, that new German production line is arriving next week. I held up 3 fingers. Triple overtime. Mr. Peterson laughed. You little punk. On the way back to my station, I swung by the locker room and swapped the hair growth serum Walt kept hidden in his locker with a tube of Nair. When I got back to my desk, I found a latte waiting for me. Chloe, the new intern, blushed and scurried away. TCH, another fan. I immediately poured the latte into the bowl for Buster, the stray dog who hung around the workshop. After all, I had a reputation as the factory menace to maintain. Can't go soft. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The imported German CNC machine suddenly sputtered to a halt. The service rep said the earliest a technician from Germany could get here was 3 days. The whole workshop started buzzing like a kicked beehive. I slipped off my boots, then expertly tapped 3 hidden buttons with my toes. The machine roared back to life. Sharon Price, the head of HR, happened to be walking by. She shrieked, "Leo Vance, operating machinery barefoot is a safety violation." I gave her a wink. "Sharon, you've got a run in your stocking." She glanced down, then fled in embarrassment. My old burner phone buzzed in my pocket. A text, 8 p.m. tonight. Summit Industrial. System failure. $200. A grin spread across my face. Everyone in this factory thinks I'm just some ant they can crush whenever they feel like it. They have no idea that I hold their livelihoods in the palm of my hand. Take that German machine, for example. I tweaked the parameters. Now it will only power on if you shout, "Yeehaw," added in a thick southern accent. Or the quality control system. I installed a hidden script. If I don't log in for 3 days, it automatically forwards all of Walt's padded expense reports to accounting. And the factory Wi-Fi. I embedded a little piece of code. Whenever Sharon Price connects, it automatically starts blaring Cotton Eye Joe. As I was leaving for the day, I saw Walt in the locker room, frantically scratching at his head in front of the mirror. The Nair was starting to work. My burner phone buzzed again. It was a text from Mr. Peterson. "The CEO is coming for an inspection tomorrow. You need to." I replied, "Gonna cost you." Walking out of the factory gates, the sunset stretched my shadow long behind me. Tomorrow was going to be another day of Walt Flanagan questioning his life choices. Because machines break, but the master is always the master. 02. The next morning at 7:59 a.m., I strolled into the workshop just as the clock ticked over. Walt was blocking the entrance, his toupee askew like it had been through a hurricane. Leo, the CEO, is visiting today, and you dare to show up late? I casually pulled out my phone. Walt, your wife just sent you a text. His face went pale as he fumbled for his own phone. Just kidding, I said with a grin, breezing past him. The workshop was a flurry of activity, everyone pretending to be incredibly busy. Mr. Peterson was escorting the CEO and his entourage through the plant when they found me squatting in a corner, munching on a breakfast burrito. "And this is your lead technician?" the CEO asked, frowning. Mr. Peterson started sweating. "This is one of our quality inspectors." I brushed the burrito crumbs off my hands and stood up. "Morning, sir. I'm Leo Vance. A young man needs to show some initiative," the CEO said, clapping me on the shoulder. "I hear you're pretty good with the tech around here." "I get by," I said, pointing to the German CNC machine. "Take this one, for instance." I set it up with a voice command system. Responds to a southern drawl. The CEO's interest was piqued. "Show me." I cleared my throat and yelled, "Yeah." The machine roared to life, running a perfect cycle. The entire group was dumbfounded. Walt's face turned a sickly green. "That's not in the operational manual." "Son," the CEO said, his eyes shining, "that's the kind of innovation I like to see." Mr. Peterson seized the moment. "He can also fix." "Gonna cost you," I muttered under my breath. Right after the CEO's tour, the factory got a rush order from a Japanese client, a prototype due in 3 days. The engineering department was in full-blown panic mode. "There's no way to hit these specs." Miller, the head engineer, cried, pulling at what little hair he had left. I was squatting nearby, cracking sunflower seeds. "Set the rotation speed to 2350 and the feed rate to 0.15. "That's insane. The standard parameters are—" "Just try it," I said, spitting out a perfectly cracked shell. 2 hours later, the prototype was flawless. Walt stomped over, his face like a thundercloud. "Leo, eating on the shop floor. That's a $200 fine." I pulled out my phone. "Walt, guess what I just took a picture of?" The photo showed him hiding in the supply closet, secretly sipping from a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle. His expression shifted through 5 different shades of rage before he finally choked out. "Don't let it happen again." Chloe, the intern, ran over, clutching a notepad. "Mr. Vance, can you teach me how you figure out those parameters?" "Call me Leo," I said, scribbling a few notes in her book. Sharon Price materialized out of nowhere. "Leo Vance. Inter-office fraternization is strictly forbidden." "Sharon," I said, pointing at her chest, "your ID badge is on backward." She looked down. The clip-on name tag I'd swapped on her lanyard earlier now read, "Not the boss of me." That afternoon, a critical piece of equipment went down. While the whole plant was scrambling, I was in a bathroom stall, deep into a game on my phone. "Leo, where's Leo?" I could hear the chaos outside. I calmly finished my match, washed my hands 3 times, and then strolled out. "What took you so long?" Walt yelled, his toupee nearly flying off his head. "Upset stomach," I said with a pained expression. "You're welcome to take a crack at it." 10 minutes later, the machine was back online. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, except for Walt, who snarled, "I want a written report on my desk for being away from your post." I pulled out my burner phone and played a recording. It was Walt's voice. "Why don't you all head to lunch? I'll keep an eye on the equipment." The recording was punctuated by a loud snore. My burner phone buzzed again. 8 p.m. tomorrow. Next town over. System failure. $500. On my way to the locker room, I overheard Walt on the phone. "We had to find a way to get rid of him." I just whistled and kept walking. At 10 o'clock that night, I slipped back into the workshop and added a new feature to the German CNC machine. Every day at 3 p.m., it would now loudly blast Cotton Eye Joe. As I was leaving, I saw Chloe still at her desk. "Why are you still here?" I asked. She blushed. "Just trying to learn a little more." "Come on, I'll buy you some tacos," I said, tossing her my toolbox. "Carry this for me." She fumbled to catch it, and in doing so, triggered a little prank I'd rigged. The box burst open, shooting a cloud of glitter and confetti straight into her hair. "Leo Vance!" she shrieked, stamping her foot. I ran off laughing, not seeing the small smile that crept onto her face. Back at my apartment, my burner phone had 3 unread texts. "Mr. Peterson, be early tomorrow." Important client coming. Unknown number. Headhunter. We can offer $80K to start. Walt. I want that report on my desk tomorrow. I replied to each one. Gonna cost you. Too low. In your dreams. Lying in bed, I remembered seeing Sharon secretly slip a disciplinary form into my employee file earlier. This was getting fun. They thought they were dealing with some small fry inspector. They didn't realize I had the entire factory by the throat. Take the printer in the accounting office. I set up a script. If Sharon ever tries to print a termination notice for me, it will automatically print her own letter of resignation instead. And the thermostat in Walt's office. I have the only remote. The entire factory's security camera system. I have admin access. Before turning off my phone, I sent one last command to the German machine's smart system. Tomorrow, at 3:01 p.m., pretend to break down. After all, being the master ought to be fun. 03. At 5 a.m., my burner phone started vibrating like a jackhammer. Mr. Peterson had sent 3 frantic texts. Emergency. German production line arrived early. Installation crew is on site now. I rolled over and went back to sleep. At 6 a.m., it buzzed again. This time it was Walt. Get to the factory immediately. This is grounds for termination. I slowly typed a reply. You'll have to find the company's seal first. When I finally strolled through the gates at 7:30, the whole place looked like a bomb had gone off in an anthill. The new German production line, a behemoth of steel, was sitting inert in the middle of the workshop floor. A dozen installation workers were scratching their heads. Now, Walt yelled, running over, his toupee matted with sweat. You decided to show up for work? I cleaned out an ear. Isn't it only 7:30? Mr. Peterson rushed over, looking frazzled. The German expert says it'll take 2 weeks to get this thing calibrated, but the client is coming for a demo next week. I glanced at the metal beast. Easy fix. Walt sneered. What? You think this is a set of Legos? The German expert, Hans, walked up. In broken English, he said, This is very complex. Requires professional. I snatched the instruction manual out of his hand, flipped to page 78, and pointed. You set the parameters wrong here. Hans's face fell. That's impossible. You used imperial units instead of metric, I said, tapping the schematic. No wonder it won't fit. The entire area fell silent. Mr. Peterson swallowed hard. So what now? Step aside, I said, shrugging off my jacket. For the next 2 hours, I worked on that machine with the precision of a surgeon. The German team's expressions went from doubt to shock, and finally, to pure reverence. Genius! Hans exclaimed, giving me a thumbs up. Where did you receive your training? I tapped my temple. Up here. When the production line finally roared to life, Walt's face was as black as engine grease. Mr. Peterson clapped me on the shoulder, ecstatic. You did it. Bonus, I said, holding up 5 fingers. Walt suddenly interjected. He operated imported equipment without authorization. That's a violation. Hans immediately shot back. Mr. Vance is our most valued partner. I just winked at Walt. Your toupee is crooked again. At lunch in the cafeteria, Chloe sat down across from me with her tray. Leo, how do you know so much about everything? It's a gift, I said, dropping a piece of meatloaf onto her plate. Eat up. You're too skinny. Sharon Price appeared like a storm cloud. No intimate contact in the cafeteria. Sharon, I said, gesturing behind her, your skirt is tucked into your pantyhose. She spun around in a panic and crashed right into Walt, knocking his tray into the air. His toupee fell off and landed in a bowl of soup, where it floated like a dead jellyfish. At exactly 3 p.m., the German machine started blasting Cotton Eye Joe. Everyone stared at me. New feature, I said with a grin. Walt was practically vibrating with rage. Turn it off. Now. Can't, I said with a shrug. Not unless. Unless what? Unless you sing the chorus into its diagnostic microphone. The entire workshop was shaking with suppressed laughter. Walt's face cycled through several shades of red and purple before he finally stormed out. Linda from accounting sidled up to me. Leo, Walt is in his office trying to pull your attendance records. Tell him, I said, sipping my tea, that the $1,888 client entertainment expense he filed last month was for a fake invoice. Linda's eyes went wide before she scurried away. As I was leaving for the day, Chloe stopped me. Leo, Walt, and Sharon are in the conference room, trying to dig up dirt on you. Let him dig, I said, patting her on the head. And don't forget to bring me a donut tomorrow. My burner phone buzzed with 3 new messages. Mr. Peterson, someone from corporate is coming to observe tomorrow. Unknown number. Offer is now $120K. Think about it. Walt, you have until tomorrow to submit that written report. My replies, gonna cost you. Double it. Get lost. Late that night, I slipped back into the workshop and added a new program to the German equipment. It now recognized Walt's voice and would automatically shut down if he came near it. As I was leaving, I noticed Chloe had forgotten her notebook on a workbench. I flipped it open. It was filled with meticulous notes on my repair methods, and on the last page, a surprisingly good sketch of me in profile. I smiled, and on the page opposite, I drew a cartoon pig with the words Walt Flanagan written underneath. On the way home, I got a text from Mr. Peterson. Corporate is really impressed with you. They're talking about a promotion. I replied, management is a headache. Just give me cash. After a shower, the burner phone rang again. It was the unknown number. How did you know about Walt's fake invoice? I texted back. I know a lot of things. Like how you were the one who slipped that disciplinary form in my file yesterday at Sharon Price. The phone went silent. Lying in bed, I thought about the look on the Germans' faces. This was just getting started. I'd already planted an Easter egg in the payroll system. Next payday, it would automatically move the decimal point on Walt's salary 1 place to the left. I tweaked the time clock system so that any tardiness record for Sharon would be automatically emailed to the entire factory. And I'd rigged the water cooler to spray Walt in the face every time he tried to use it. Because being the master should be entertaining. Before shutting off my phone, I sent a command to the factory's master control system. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., make every machine on the floor stutter for exactly 5 minutes. Time to show them what life is like when a master isn't looking out for them. 04. At 7 a.m., the power went out across the entire factory. The workshop plunged into darkness as backup alarms started blaring. I just rolled over my dorm bed and pulled a pillow over my head. By 8 a.m., my burner phone had been blown up with missed calls. Mr. Peterson, Walt, Sharon, even Linda from accounting had all tried me at least 3 times. I leisurely called Mr. Peterson back. Yeah, the whole factory's dark. The backup generator won't start. And the Japanese clients will be here in half an hour, he shrieked, his voice cracking. Huh, I said with a yawn. Let me finish my breakfast first. The cafeteria lady gave me 2 extra sausages with my pancakes. I was halfway through my second one when Walt burst in. His toupee was covered in leaves, like he'd taken a tumble in the bushes. Get to the generator. Now, he bellowed, spitting a piece of scrambled egg onto my plate. I disgustedly pushed the plate away. You might want to wipe your chin first. A crowd had gathered around the generator room. Mr. Peterson was pacing like a caged tiger. One of Sharon's high heels was stuck in a sewer grate. The entire engineering department was staring blankly at the control panel. I sauntered over, hands in my pockets. Make a path. You're finally here, Mr. Peterson cried, looking like he was about to fall to his knees. I crouched down to examine the panel, then frowned. Where's the operation manual for this thing? Walt stammered, well, it should be somewhere. During the safety training seminar last year, I said, standing up, I specifically told everyone this generator needed to be test run once a month. Did anyone listen? Dead silence. I clapped the dust off my hands. Everybody back up. 5 minutes later, the generator roared to life. I took the liberty of taping the operating instructions to the wall, circling a key section in red marker. Walt, be a dear and read this out loud for us. Face burning, Walt mumbled, on the 1st of every month. Test run procedure. Must be logged. Excellent, I nodded. Try to remember that next time. By the time the Japanese clients arrived, the workshop was humming along perfectly. Mr. Peterson was bowing and scraping as he led them on a tour, with Walt trailing behind, mopping sweat from his brow. I was in a corner, cleaning my fingernails with a pocket knife. Suddenly, the lead Japanese client pointed directly at me. Who is that man? That's our quality inspector, Mr. Peterson said awkwardly. Him, the client exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. I've seen his picture on the industry forums. He is the Met God. The entire factory floor went silent. I just kept cleaning my nails. You've got the wrong guy. Later that day, Sharon called me into her office. There's been a report that you've been taking on outside work. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Sharon, here's $3,000. I need you to find a way to fire Leo Vance. Sound familiar? Sharon's face went white. It was clearly Walt's voice on the tape. Oh, by the way, I added, I managed to recover that termination letter you deleted from your computer's recycling bin. Should I forward it to the whole company? She nearly slid out of her chair. That afternoon, the owner of a rival company showed up to poach me. $80,000 a year, company car, housing allowance, the works. I was busy gnawing on a chicken leg Chloe had brought me. Not interested. Why not? It's more fun here, I said, pointing out the window at Walt, who was still fuming by the generator. Chloe quietly asked me, Leo, are you really the Met God? Just a screen name, I said, wiping my hands. Like how Walt's online handle is Mr. Luscious Locks. She snorted with laughter. Suddenly, the factory-wide PA system crackled to life. All personnel, immediate assembly in the main conference room. Video conference with the CEO. On the big screen, the CEO was beaming. I have some great news. We've just secured a strategic investment from the German firm, Rhine Group. The room erupted in cheers. As part of the deal, the CEO continued. They specifically requested a meeting with the engineer who can operate our equipment using regional dialects. Every single eye in the room swiveled to me. I was busy playing a tile-matching game on my phone. Leo Vance. Walt hissed through clenched teeth. The CEO is talking. Can't beat this level, I said without looking up. The CEO chuckled. Leo, my boy, Rhine Group wants to hire you as a consultant for a very generous fee. Not available, I said, my fingers flying across the screen. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Mr. Peterson was frantically making eye signals at me. Leo, Rhine Group is a global industry leader. Don't care, I said, finally clearing the level. I looked up and smiled. I'm perfectly happy here at Apex. The CEO looked like he had just swallowed a whole lemon. After the meeting, Mr. Peterson pulled me aside. Do you have any idea what it means to turn down Rhine Group? It means, I said, counting on my fingers, that Walt has to keep putting up with me, Sharon has to keep signing my paychecks, and you have to keep giving me bonuses. Mr. Peterson didn't know whether to laugh or cry. On my way out, I noticed my locker in the changing room had been jimmied open. Walt was standing nearby, pretending to read a notice on the wall. Looking for this? I asked, dangling a USB drive. I have plenty of backups. His face turned to stone as he stomped away. My burner phone buzzed. 3 new messages. Mr. Peterson, we're giving you a private office tomorrow. Unknown number. $100K a year. Final offer. Walt. I expect that report on my desk by morning. My replies, don't want it. Too much work. Go to hell. That night, I snuck into the accounting office and replaced all of Walt's expense receipts with Sharon's online shopping invoices. Then I went to the workshop and added a new feature to every machine. From now on, they would scan for Walt's fingerprint and, upon detection, automatically post Walt Flanagan is a moron to the company-wide Slack channel. On the way home, Chloe texted me, Walt is trying to do a background check on you. I replied, tell him his wife was at the Hilton yesterday. The receipt was expense to our company. The phone went silent. After a shower, the burner phone rang again. It was Mr. Peterson. What is it you really want? I texted back, a 1-hour power outage tomorrow. I want to see Walt do the Macarena to get the lights back on. Lying in bed, I thought about the look on the Japanese client's face. The show was just getting started. I'd already rewritten the algorithm for the time clock. Starting tomorrow, Walt would be marked as 2 hours late every single day. I'd rigged the water cooler in the break room to play a recording of Sharon bad-mouthing the CEO every time she tried to get water. And I'd set up the main office printer to add an I'm a moron watermark to any document printed by Walt. After all, the master's work is never done. 05. The same afternoon, Mr. Peterson flew to Germany. Walt made his move. I was in a bathroom stall playing a game when the PA system crackled. Leo Vance. Report to Human Resources immediately. For people were waiting for me in Sharon's office. Walt, the head of security, a union rep, and some temp-taking notes. The company has decided to restructure its personnel, Sharon said, sliding a document across the desk. This is your severance agreement. Please sign it. I leaned back and crossed my legs. On what grounds? Repeated violations of company policy, Walt declared, slamming a thick file on the table. Tardy 37 times, playing games on the clock, uniform infractions. I casually pulled out my phone. Want to listen to this? Walt's voice filled the room from the phone speaker. Find a way to get rid of him. Give Sharon the $3,000. Sharon shot to her feet. Security, escort him out. 2 guards grabbed my arms. I can walk myself out, I said, shrugging them off. Walt smirked. Hand over your ID badge and keys. I tossed my badge on the desk and threw the keys to the temp. Be careful with those. They might explode. She yelped and nearly dropped them. As I walked out of HR, the entire workshop floor was watching. Chloe ran after me, her eyes red. Leo, help me clean out my locker, I said, handing her a USB drive. This is for you. Walt stood over me like a prison guard as I emptied my locker. I made a point of taking my time, pulling out each item with dramatic slowness. Half a bag of sunflower seeds, a moldy orange, a dog-eared copy of Maxim. Hurry up, he snapped. What's the rush? I said, pulling out an old alarm clock. I set the timer for 1 hour. A parting gift. Security escorted me to the main gate. I turned for one last look at the factory I'd spent 5 years in, then pressed the last button on a small remote in my pocket. Back in his office, Walt jumped as a loud noise erupted from his desk drawer. The alarm clock I'd left him exploded, showering his office in a rainbow of glitter and confetti. Leo, Vance! His roar echoed across the entire facility. I was lying on my couch, eating a slice of cold pizza, when my burner phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. Chloe, Leo, it's a disaster. The German production line is down. Miller from engineering. Leo, my boy, that yeehaw command isn't working anymore. The GM's assistant. The CEO needs to speak with you on a video call, urgently. I ignored all of them. At 8 p.m., Chloe called directly. The whole factory is in chaos. The Japanese clients are here for the demo, and the production line is shutting down for 10 minutes every hour. The CEO called from Germany and screamed at Walt until he cried. Not my problem, I said, taking another bite of pizza. Sharon said she's going to call the cops and have you arrested for sabotage. Tell her, I said, picking off a piece of pepperoni, that the password for the tax documents folder on her desktop is her wedding anniversary. I heard Chloe gasp on the other end of the line. After hanging up, I opened the factory security camera app on my tablet. The live feed showed Walt running around like a headless chicken. Sharon was on the phone, bowing and nodding. The Japanese clients were angrily throwing down samples. A friend request popped up on my encrypted messaging app. It was the CEO himself. I accepted, and he immediately initiated a video call. On the screen, the CEO's eyes were bloodshot. Leo, name your price. Anything. I pretended to think. First, double your salary. No, triple it. Second, you get a private office and a company car. And third, you can do whatever you want with Walt Flanagan. I scratched my ear. Let me think about it. I ended the call. My burner phone showed 28 missed calls. The most recent text was from Sharon. Please come back. We'll agree to any conditions. I replied, 1. Triple salary. 2. A factory-wide public apology from Walt. 3. I want Chloe as my personal assistant. 5 minutes later, a reply came, deal. I leisurely changed my clothes, stopped at a food truck for a couple of hot dogs, and then slowly made my way back to the factory. Sharon was waiting for me at the gate, her forced smile making her look like she had a muscle spasm. Inside the workshop, everyone looked at me like I was the second coming. Where's the machine? I asked. Over there. Walt mumbled, head down, his toupee soaked with sweat. I walked over to the German production line and took a bite of my hot dog. Watch closely. I pressed 3 hidden buttons, typed in WT, and the line roared back to life. The entire factory erupted in applause. The Japanese client rushed forward to hug me, but I fended him off with my hot dog. The CEO video called again. Leo, my boy, Walt is ready to make his apology now. Walt stood in the center of the workshop, his voice barely a whisper. I shouldn't have. Louder, the CEO roared from the phone. I shouldn't have tried to get Leo Vance fired. Walt shouted, his toupee jiggling precariously. I held him a hot dog. Everyone get a picture. This is historic. Chloe was the first to pull out her phone, and soon everyone was snapping photos. Walt looked like he'd just eaten a bowl of nails. The next day, my new office was right next to Mr. Peterson's. It used to be Walt's private conference room. My ID badge still said Quality Inspector, but my paycheck had an extra 0. Chloe came in carrying a box. Leo, I've officially been assigned as your assistant. Post this on the company bulletin board, I said, handing her a piece of paper. The notice read, effective immediately, all equipment maintenance requests must be personally approved by Leo Vance. Addendum, Walt Flanagan is barred from entering workshop A. At lunch, my cafeteria card beeped twice. The system now recognized me as VIP personnel. Walt, holding his tray, tried to scurry past me, but I called out, hey Walt, don't run off. He froze. I pointed to a piece of lettuce on the floor. You dropped your toupee. He instinctively slapped his hand to his head, only to realize he'd been had again. The entire cafeteria howled with laughter. That afternoon, I was kicking back in my new office, playing a game, when alarms suddenly blared across the entire factory. It was the wellness break protocol I'd installed, automatically shutting down all machinery for a mandatory 10-minute rest. Walt burst in. What did you do now? The machines need a break, I said without looking up. Just like you. Chloe ran in, looking flustered. Leo, the CEO, is on the phone. I put on speaker. I fix the machines, so I make the rules. You don't like it? I can walk right back out that door. There were 3 seconds of silence on the other end. Carry on, Leo. Whatever makes you happy. After the call, I updated the programming on every piece of equipment. Now, scanning Walt's ID badge would make the nearest speaker play Loser by Beck. As I was leaving for the day, my burner phone got a text from an unknown number. You just wait. I replied, waiting for what? For your hairpiece to finally give up the ghost. At Walt Flanagan. Walking out of the factory gates, the sunset stretched my shadow long behind me. Chloe caught up with me. Leo, can I buy you dinner? Rain check, I said, holding up my phone. Got a $3,000 gig tonight. Who from? Ryan Group, I said with a grin. Turns out their head of North American operations is Walt Flanagan, brother-in-law. Chloe's jaw hit the pavement. Yeah, being the master was getting more interesting by the day. 06. At 8 a.m. sharp. My fluorescent green BMW was parked sideways across the main factory road, a loudspeaker on its roof blasting the final countdown on a loop. Chloe climbed out of the driver's seat, blushing. Leo, do we have to listen to this? Not a fan. I hit a button on a remote, and the music immediately switched to a bass-boosted version of the Baby Shark song. Walt, who was riding his bike nearby, swerved and nearly crashed into a hedge. A long line of people was already waiting outside my new office. Engineers, production staff, even the head lunch lady were all waiting for an audience. I slowly took out my keys and deliberately fumbled with the fingerprint scanner 5 times before the door clicked open. One at a time, I said, sinking into the plush leather executive chair. Miller from engineering was the first to rush in. Mr. Vance, the German production line is acting up again. Call me Leo, I said, spinning a pen between my fingers. The machine's not broken. It just misses me. Chloe tried to bring me a coffee, but was nearly trampled by the crowd. I frowned. Everyone out. Line up. Anyone cuts. And I'm programming the toilets in their department to flush nonstop for a week. The line instantly became as orderly as a military drill. At lunch, my tray was automatically upgraded to the extra-large size. The server's hand no longer trembled as she piled a mountain of mashed potatoes onto my plate. This is ridiculous, mumbled a guy from the inspection team. I pointed at his ID badge with my fork. You used the 3D printer last week to make a model of a lightsaber, didn't you? Want me to pull up the design file? The guy's fork clattered to the floor. The CEO himself brought his tray over and sat across from me. Leo, the board has approved a 5% equity stake for you. Don't want it, I said, shoveling food into my mouth. Shareholders have responsibilities. A master only has privileges. Linda from accounting ran over, looking panicked. Mr. Chairman, The payroll system calculated Walt's monthly salary as $38.20. I didn't look up. It's a decimal point bug. It'll fix itself tomorrow. But Linda hesitated. Sharon's time card shows she's been continuously late for 37 hours. Oh, I said with mock surprise. Gotta dock her pay for that. The CEO wiped sweat from his forehead. Leo, can the system be? Sure, I said, tapping a few times on my phone. There. Sharon now has perfect attendance for the month. 3 seconds later, Linda's phone pinged. Huh. Now it says she's logged 200 hours of overtime. I shrugged. My finger must have slipped. That afternoon, the director of the National Manufacturing Summit showed up in person. The bald old man was practically bowing. Mr. Vance, we can't possibly open the summit without you as our keynote speaker. Too busy, I said, playing my Nintendo Switch. Got a poker game tomorrow. We can offer an appearance fee. $5,000. Is that what you pay the janitor? I didn't look up. 10,000. No, 15. I finally glanced at him. And you throw in that fancy imported espresso machine from your lobby. Half an hour later, I'd reluctantly signed the invitation. Chloe's eyes were as wide as dinner plates. Leo, that summit is for all the biggest names in the industry. So, I tossed her a folder. Memorize this. You're giving the speech tomorrow. She opened the folder. The title on the first page read, An in-depth analysis of the 18 varieties of Walt Flanagan stupidity. When I left for the day, the head of security personally cleared a path for me. A black Maybach was parked at the gate. The window rolled down to reveal a man in a suit. Mr. Vance, our president would like to invite you to dinner. Rhine Group. I didn't even break my stride as I got into my green BMW. Tell your president his brother-in-law is in the warehouse counting screws. And if he miscounts, the system makes him start over. The Maybach quietly drove away. As Chloe drove us past the warehouse, we could see Walt through the window, losing his mind over a table piled high with screws. I'd programmed the counting system to give him a gentle flick on the forehead with a robotic arm every time he made a mistake. Leo, Chloe said, looking a little sympathetic. I rolled down the window. Hey, Walt. The 365th screw is in the bottom right corner. He looked up and glared. I had Chloe honk the horn, and the Baby Shark song blared across the factory grounds. Back in my apartment, my burner phone had 3 new messages. CEO, German experts are visiting tomorrow for a technical exchange. Unknown number. $20K a month. Final offer. Walt, I'm filing a workplace harassment complaint. My replies. I'm busy. Still too low. Make sure you get a good lawyer. I hear your wife-boyfriend runs a pretty decent firm. Late that night, I snuck back into the factory and added a new function to all the equipment. Now, scanning the CEO's ID badge would trigger a cheerful, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood" audio clip. Scanning Walt's badge, however, would activate kiddie ride mode, making the machine gently rock back and forth. When I passed the warehouse, I saw Walt was still there, counting. I quietly changed the smart system's voice prompt to that of his wife, commanding, "Don't you dare come home until you're finished." The next morning, the entire factory witnessed a strange sight. A delegation of German engineers was gathered around my workstation in awe while I was leaning back in my chair, playing poker on my phone. "Mr. Vance," the lead German exclaimed, grabbing my hand, "your modifications to the CX 3000 model are revolutionary." "What modifications?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "The dialect-based control system and the automatic wellness brakes. Our headquarters wants to buy the patent." I cleaned out an ear. "Not for sale. 1 million. Euro. Don't need the money," I said, pointing out the window. "See that fluorescent green BMW? It's got way more style than your boring Maybach." The Germans left looking dejected. The CEO chased after me. "Leo, about that patent. You want it?" I grinned. "Give me Walt Flanagan letter of resignation." When word of this reached the warehouse, Walt reportedly threw the barcode scanner against the wall, shattering it into a million pieces. That afternoon, I called a surprise all-hands meeting. The big screen in the conference room was playing a highlight reel of Walt's greatest hits over the years. Falsifying production numbers, taking kickbacks from suppliers, bullying coworkers. There was even security footage of him watching trashy reality TV in his office. "All of this material," I said, scanning the room, has already been packaged and sent to the board of directors, the ethics committee, and his wife. Walt's face was ashen. I clicked the remote, and the screen changed. However, I'm a forgiving guy. The new image was a photoshopping picture of Walt happily volunteering at an animal shelter. Therefore, I'm recommending he be transferred to the landscaping department, where he can be in charge of watering the plants. The room burst into thunderous applause. The CEO immediately agreed. After the meeting, Chloe whispered, "Leo, are you really letting him off the hook?" I just smiled and showed her my phone. I had already reprogrammed the automatic sprinkler system to target Walt Flanagan mode. My burner phone buzzed. It was a text from Sharon. "Thank you for being so merciful." I replied, "You're welcome. And by the way, make sure you uninstall that keystroke logger from my office computer tomorrow." My green BMW had a new bumper sticker when I left work. Rhine Group offered me €1 million for a patent. I said no. Driving past the landscaping office, I saw Walt being chased around the lawn by the sprinklers. I rolled down the window and yelled, "Hey, Walt, you missed a spot by the rose bushes." He shook his fist at me, slipped on a wet patch of grass, and fell headfirst into a dumpster. Back home, I updated all the factory systems with their final programming. Now, if I don't clock in for 3 days, the entire network will automatically send out a letter to all employees, complete with a treasure trove of dirt on every member of upper management. After a shower, my burner phone buzzed with a message from the CEO. "The board has voted to make you vice president." I replied, "I don't want to be a VP. I just want to be the master." Lying in bed, I thought about the look on the Germans' faces. This was just getting started. Tomorrow, the payroll system would accidentally donate Walt's salary to a charity for bald eagles. The time clock would have Sharon punching in every morning at 3 a.m. from the CEO's driveway. And the water cooler would now announce, "A gift from the master. Drink deeply and be grateful." Every time the CEO filled his cup. After all, the master's work is never done. 07. On Monday morning, I drove my fluorescent green BMW directly into the decorative fountain in the center of the factory courtyard. Chloe, in the passenger seat, turned white. "Leo, what are you doing?" "Car wash," I said, hitting a button on the dash. The rooftop speakers began blasting "Car Wash" by Rolls-Royce. The head of security came jogging over. "Mr. Vance, the CEO, says the fountain isn't." "Isn't what?" I lowered the window. "Want me to pop the trunk so you can wash your golf cart, too?" He immediately shut up and thoughtfully moved the "no parking" sign out of the way. The entryway to my office was piled high with gifts. A custom-engraved wrench from engineering, a gold-plated screw from the production team, and a jar of homemade hot sauce from the head lunch lady. I casually handed the hot sauce to Chloe. "Check this for poison." She had just unscrewed the lid when Sharon Price burst in. "Leo, it's an emergency. Walt has died," I asked without looking up from my phone. "No, he's weaponized a riding lawnmower and is currently chasing the accounting department across the main lawn." On the security monitor, I could see Walt, wearing a motorcycle helmet, standing on the souped-up lawnmower screaming, "Leo Vance, I challenge you to a duel." I yawned. "Activate Emergency Protocol 7. Chloe hit a button. A dozen high-pressure sprinklers erupted from the lawn, creating a swirling vortex of water that trapped Walt in the center. An automated voice boomed across the grounds. "Attention, Walt Flanagan. You have been demoted to landscaping intern. Please return company property immediately." The entire factory was pressed against the windows, watching the show. I picked up the intercom. "Walt, that lawnmower you've commandeered has a rental fee of $500 an hour. It'll be deducted from your final paycheck." A stream of incoherent screaming came from the water vortex. The CEO hurried into my office. "Leo, this is bad for morale." "Simple fix," I said, tapping my phone a few times. The lawnmower shut down, and a small screen popped up on its dashboard. It began playing Walt's original job interview video, in which he claimed to be fluent in 18 languages before being asked to introduce himself in English and stammering out, "Good morning. I am Walt Flanagan." The entire factory exploded with laughter. Walt ripped off his helmet and fled. In the cafeteria, they had introduced a new master's platter for lunch. My designated seat was at a table covered with a red velvet cloth. The server's hand trembled so much she built a pyramid of fried chicken on my plate. "This isn't fair," yelled some guy from logistics. I pointed at his ID badge. "You took a forklift on a joyride into town last month to pick up a burrito. Need me to pull the GPS data?" The guy's tray slipped from his hands and crashed to the floor. That afternoon, a limo from the industry summit came to pick me up. Chloe was clutching a stack of notes, shaking. "Leo, I can't go on stage." "What's the matter with you?" I said, handing her a new USB drive. "Just swap out the presentation with this one." The auditorium was packed. The host announced enthusiastically, "And now, please welcome a rising star and protege of the legendary mech god, Miss Chloe Miller." Chloe's legs were jelly. I gave her a light shove. "Get out there." She shakily clicked open the presentation file. The room went silent. The title on the massive screen, complete with cartoon illustrations, was an in-depth analysis of the 18 varieties of Walt Flanagan's stupidity. She started to cry. I snatched the microphone from her. Last-minute change of topic. I clicked open a hidden folder. Today's lecture is titled, "How to Control Imported German Machinery Using Only Southern Colloquialisms." The crowd went wild. The German delegation gave me a standing ovation. On the way back to the factory, Chloe was still in shock. "Leo, those German experts, they want to study under you. Tell them," I said, rolling down the window, "the tuition fee is Walt Flanagan's entire toupee collection." We arrived back at the factory to the sound of a PA announcement. "Attention, all personnel. Mr. Walt Flanagan has voluntarily requested a transfer to our new subsidiary branch in Antarctica." Chloe's eyes widened. "Is he really going?" "Nope," I said, pointing toward my office. "I've got his passport locked in my desk." Sure enough, 10 minutes later, a defeated Walt knocked on my door. "Give me my passport." "Have a look," I said, opening the drawer in front of him. It was filled to the brim with cheap hair pieces. My, isn't this your prized, follicularly fortunate collection?" He spun around to leave, but the automatic door I'd just installed closed on his pants, trapping him. When I left for the day, my BMW had a new modification, a custom fragrance sprayer on the rear bumper. As I drove past Walt, I doused him in a cloud of Chanel No. 5. He started sneezing violently. "Leo, you. Not a fan." I toggled a switch. "How about Axe body spray?" Back at home, my burner phone had 3 new messages. "CEO, the Germans want to buy the patent for the Southern dialect control system." "Walt's ex-wife, thank for the evidence. The divorce is going great. Unknown number, $30K a month. Private jet access." My replies, "Not for sale. You're welcome. The jet's too loud." That night, I snuck back into the factory and installed the ultimate system upgrade. Now, whenever my ID badge was scanned by any machine, it would shout, "All hail the master." I passed the warehouse and saw Walt trying to drink from a drum of industrial cleaning solvent. I quietly swapped it with a keg of non-alcoholic beer and left a bowl of peanuts beside it. At the factory-wide meeting the next morning, the CEO proudly announced, "Rhine Group has dropped their acquisition offer. Instead, they've proposed a technology partnership with our own Leo Vance serving as chief technical consultant." Amid the applause, I raised my hand. "How's the pay? Name your price." "In that case," I said, pointing at Walt, "I want him to be my personal assistant, in charge of bringing me coffee." Walt threw his notepad on the ground and stormed out. The CEO cleared his throat. Done. At lunch, my master's platter had been upgraded to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Walt, wearing a name tag that read, in turn, tremblingly poured my iced tea. "Too warm," I complained. He scurried off and brought another. "Too cold." On the third attempt, I accidentally knocked the glass over, spilling it all over his pants. "Maybe you should taste it first next time." The entire cafeteria was choking back laughter. The CEO pretended not to notice, focusing intently on his Jell-O. That afternoon, I announced a surprise factory-wide skills seminar. In the main workshop, I single-handedly disassembled the newest German machine, then put it back together using only a wrench and a piece of chewing gum, increasing its efficiency by 20%. The German delegation collectively fell to their knees. The media reporters were snapping photos like crazy. Chloe whispered, "Leo, this will be front-page news." "Nah," I said, wiping my hands. The security footage of Walt trying to fix a machine with his foot is way more interesting. Want to see? In the security office, Walt was frantically trying to delete his own embarrassing records. I remotely activated the room's voice system. Illegal access detected, automatically uploading all files to secure cloud backup. He shrieked and fell out of his chair. My BMW had a new loudspeaker for the ride home, which blasted on a loop. Customer satisfaction survey for Walt Flanagan Intern Services. 0 stars. Driving past the landscaping sheds, I saw him staring blankly at a pile of dead leaves. I rolled down the window. Hey, Walt, the secret to gardening is simple. More water, less stupid. Back in my apartment, I got a text from Sharon Price. My daughter is a huge fan of your online masterclass. Can I get an autograph for her? I replied, sure. Trade you for the secret surveillance footage you took of me. After a shower, I installed the final Easter egg into the factory's core programming. On the anniversary of my hiring date, every machine will automatically play Celebration by Kool and the Gang, while Walt's computer will display a single, looping message. Thank the master for sparing your miserable life. This was just getting started. Tomorrow, the accounting system would convert Walt's paycheck into Robux. The time clock would have Sharon punching in from a different state every day. And the water cooler, whenever Walt approached, would now advise, hydration is a privilege, not a right. Be grateful for the master's gift.